Good morning, learners. I am Dr. Munish Bharadwaj from School of Engineering and Technology. As you know, we are conducting a series of lectures on various topics for ACPDM learners. So in this series, today is the turn of the topic, which is energy conservation, audit and accounting. I know you were waiting for this particular topic for a long time, as this was postponed from 11th of March to this date. Today, to discuss and give presentations on this particular topic, I have very learned and experienced persons with me. Let me introduce first Dr. Ajay Mathur. He is Deputy Director General of Bureau of Energy Efficiency. And we have also with us Mr. K.K. Chakravarti. He is energy economist. And also I have with me Mr. Sunil Kumar. He is Deputy Director, National Productivity Council. And you will be certainly benefited by their views and their experience. So first we will start with the introduction to the energy conservation. I would like to request to my all learners that whenever they feel any query, any doubt, any question, they may ask at any point of time. Now I would like to request Dr. Mathur to initiate the presentations.
Thank you, Dr. Bharadwaj. What I'll do is provide a brief overview of how energy is used in India, what is the kind of potential there is for energy conservation, and the kinds of legislative and policy actions that have been undertaken to address the conservation of energy. If we look at the energy use, we notice that over the past say 35 years, the amount of energy used in the country has increased by something like 3 times. What is most striking is that over this period of time, we notice that the amount of fossil fuels have increased greatly. Till about 1990, the largest amount of use was of biomass fuels. But the share of fossil fuels, particularly coal and various petroleum products, has been increasing steadily. So the overall energy use has been increasing at about 2% every year during this decade. The key feature about this increase is that this energy meets a number of end uses. In households, it meets cooking, lighting, water heating, space conditioning needs. In industry, heat, motors and drives for motive power, electrolysis, lighting, and so on and on and on. In other words, there is a very large amount of energy uses which are met with energy forms. Interestingly enough, for example, if you look at households, cooking is carried on biomass fuels, cooking is carried on kerosene, cooking is carried on LPG, and sometimes cooking is carried even on electric heaters. So the same energy form in the same sector may provide the energy to meet the same task. I would like you to remember this diversity. At the same time, we know that there are some ways of utilizing energy. For example, if you use LPG for cooking, it is far more efficient than using biomass for cooking. Yet, because of infrastructural constraints, because of availability and accessibility issues, there are many people who are locked into using biomass and cannot move to more efficient energy sources. So I would like you to remember that we have a relatively complex energy chain where all kinds of fuels are used. It is important that while the share of biomass fuels in the energy mix is decreasing, yet it is still at about 35%, a very large portion of our energy mix. This is quite unlike the developed countries, where biomass use has almost disappeared. Second, we have a very large number of energy forms in which we provide energy. Third, there are many ways of conversion. You can use cookers, you can use heaters, you can, for example, to get electricity, we have coal power stations, we have diesel generating sets, we have gas turbines, and so on. The second issue I would like you to remember is that if you just have an energy form, coal, or oil, or gas, or biomass, the energy form by itself has relatively little use to a user. We can only burn coal if we have it. So it is important to transform it, for example, into electricity, which is a much superior energy form. And therefore the conversion and then the distribution of these high quality energy forms is an important reason for the well-being and for the prosperity of our economy. Let us move now to how energy is actually used. This diagram, known as a Sankey diagram, shows how much energy is used and how much energy is wasted. The bars which curve up show the losses, and the bars at the end show how much is the useful use of energy. You will notice that a vast amount of the total energy which comes into the system ends up as losses. Clearly, this suggests that there is a great scope for energy conservation. To give you an example, what are the kinds of ranges of energy conservation which occur in various end forms? You will notice that by far and large, the efficiencies are low. Here efficiencies are defined as the energy output divided by the energy input, in essentially first law terms. The other important issue to note is that in the same application there are very large variations in energy efficiency. For example, in cooking you notice that it is 10 to 70%. If one is cooking on a biomass used inefficiently in a wooden cook stove, you get an efficiency of 10%. On the other hand, if you are using LPG in a high pressure gas burner, you can get efficiencies of 70%. Second, even in the same application across sectors there is a difference. In households, we have a lot of incandescent bulbs which have an efficiency of less than 10%. If you go to the commercial sector, almost all the incandescents have been changed by CFLs, which have an efficiency which is nearer 50%. So, depending on the kinds of the economics, buying power, and the way people make decisions, even in the same sector such as lighting, we notice very large differences in the efficiency from one sector to the other. Let me give you an example. We are talking of electricity. If you take 100 units of coal, you get just 1 unit of it as a light at the end of that chain. I'm assuming we have an efficient power station where the net efficiency is 35%. Today we have a transmission and distribution system where the losses are for 40%. We hope they will come down to 15% in a few years, but right now we are at 40%. And then you have an electricity bulb, an incandescent bulb, which has an efficiency of 10%. And so at the end of it, 99% of the primary energy which goes into the system, only 1% comes out as useful light. Now supposing I just change, I do only one thing. I change this incandescent bulb to a CFL bulb. What happens? I still get the same amount of light, 1 unit. But because it is much more efficient, the amount of electricity that I need is only 2 units instead of the 12 units I needed earlier. Therefore, the electricity which needs to be generated at the power station is only 6 units. The losses in the system are still 40%. And therefore, the amount of coal that the power station needs is only 17 units instead of 100 units. So the total losses are 16 instead of 99. to provide the same amount of useful energy service. I would like you to remember this word, because at the end of the day we are not interested in electricity or coal or gas. What we are interested in is energy service. How much light do I get? What this tells me is that if I can make end use changes, end use energy conservation, I can have major benefits upstream as well. Therefore, what I would like you to remember is that losses occur at each point in the chain. Obviously, if we are able to greatly increase our end use energy efficiency, there is a significant benefit which cascades upstream in the energy chain. Third, there are both efficient as well as inefficient technologies and fuel combinations. What we use depends on economics, it depends on affordability, depends on access. Many a times infrastructure just locks us out. If you don't have an efficient public transport system in a city, we will use private transport. And the lack of infrastructure for public transport implies that inefficient private transport is used for that purpose. I would also like you to note that generally speaking, the kinds of energy efficiencies that we wrote about, the first law efficiencies, there is still room for improvement, much room for improvement. But I would also like you to remember one more thing, and that is today we are using all of these technologies based on certain principles of physics. The coal power station is based on the Carnot cycle. Carnot cycle has inherent thermodynamic limitations. If you move to something else, for example, if you move to a fuel cell which is using coal gas, hydrogen and carbon monoxide from coal gas, you get much higher efficiencies. The efficiencies then can peak at 80%. So if we look outside the box and look at the different kinds of physical principles that there are for providing the energy services, we may be able to greatly enhance the kind of energy efficiency that we can get. Let's now move on. If there are all these great methods to enhance the energy efficiency, why are they not happening? After all, if I adopt a more efficient energy technology, my energy bill reduces. It is also a benefit to the electricity system because the load decreases. Yet, many a times this does not happen. I suggest that there are four main reasons which don't happen, why this doesn't happen. The first is largely for end use consumers like you and me. When we go out to buy a refrigerator, we don't know how much electricity it uses. So I use its brand, color, size to make a decision. But if I had information about how much energy it uses, then I can make a more informed decision and buy an energy efficient fridge if it meets all my other needs. So information is the first barrier. The second is that I may have a more efficient device available and I know about it, but it may be very expensive. The CFL is a classic example. Everybody knows it is more efficient. In the commercial sector, there is almost complete penetration. But in households, I have to make a decision, should I buy a CFL which is 80 to 100 rupees, or should I buy a normal bulb which is only 10 rupees? And therefore, first cost, particularly for end-use customers, becomes an important issue. If I'm a commercial operator, I'm taking a loan from the bank, I have to return it, and therefore, if I've got a lower cost in operation, as would occur with a CFC as opposed to an incandescent bulb, it makes sense. But for householders, that's not the case. The third and fourth reasons are much more applicable to industry and commercial operations than for households. And this relates to the fact that many of the energy efficient technologies are new. Because they are new, enough people have not used them. So I do not have a whole amount of information on how costly they are in operation, what is their reliability, what is their performance. The person who comes to sell it to me says it's wonderful, but I know that new technologies often don't work as they're supposed to. So I am hesitant in putting in investments, And obviously, so is a bank in giving me money for it. Consequently, there has to be information and benchmarks. Information about people who have used it first, and benchmarks on how new technologies perform, which can reduce the degree of uncertainty and risk for users. The final barrier I would like to address is one that particularly occurs in the building sector. There are enough technologies and construction practices that are known which can make a very energy efficient buildings. Even in Delhi today, there are hotels made which use 400 kilowatt hours per square meter per year, and there are hotels made which use less than 200, maybe 160, 180 kilowatt hours per square meter per year. So why doesn't everybody make an efficient hotel? The reason is that in buildings particularly, the builder makes the building. If he makes an energy efficient building, it's more costly. And then when he goes to sell it in the market, people say, why should I buy this more costly building? I'll buy a cheaper building. Why? Because the benefit of the lower energy cost of that building ultimately flow to the tenant. The builder sells it to a landlord, and the landlord then rents it out to a tenant. So costs are incurred by the builder and benefits are taken on by the tenant. Key issue becomes, how do we make these two benefits and costs flow to each other? Major problem, building industry across the world. Key issue has been therefore to have mandatory codes, minimum codes to which builders will build. It is with these kinds of market failures that the government decided that we would go ahead and we would put into place legal and policy interventions to address these kinds of market failures. So the Energy Conservation Act was passed in 2001, came into effect in 2002, and there are three key issues that it seeks to regulate. The first is for appliances. In appliances, I've given the example of when we go out to buy a refrigerator. We don't know how much energy it will use, and therefore the Act says that we can ask manufacturers to put labels on equipment. So now when you go out to buy a refrigerator or an air conditioner or a tube light, you will see a label on it. It's called the BEE energy label, and it tells how much energy this particular product will use, and also it tells through a system of stars how does this product compare in energy efficiency with other products in the market. A 5-star product is the most efficient, a 1-star product is the least efficient. Second, the Act, to address the issue of split incentives in the building sector, gives the powers to the government to prescribe an energy conservation building code, ECBC. And third, the Act says that for consumers who use a lot of energy, they are called designated consumers, they may be notified as designated consumers. These consumers have to have a system in place to monitor their energy use, report on it, get their energy use verified by an energy auditor, and then also follow energy consumption norms for their sector if they are prescribed. Apart from this, we also through policy promote demand side management, and we will talk more about demand side management later in this session. Demand side management is essentially a way through which DISCOMs, electricity companies, provide incentives so that people reduce their energy consumption, and therefore the load profile of the utility becomes either lower or flattens out. Obviously, this has benefits, financial benefits to the DISCOM. Second, the Energy Conservation Building Code applies to new construction. What about existing buildings? Existing buildings say we don't know what to do. This is not our area of operation. And therefore, we are promoting energy service companies, ESCOs. ESCOs go in, they make the changes, they pay for it. And then because there is a savings in the energy bill, they get paid through the savings. We have promoted this concept by having a number of central government buildings being audited and then being upgraded through the ESCO route. And finally, obviously, all of this only makes sense if people know what are the options available. Therefore, outreach and awareness is a key issue. We are in the process of implementing the various provisions of the Energy Conservation Act. As I said, labeling has started for refrigerators, air conditioners, tube lights, and recently for transformers. And we are going to bring it in for things like LPG burners, ceiling fans, motors, consumer electronics, etc. The Energy Conservation Building Code was launched 1 week ago, last Sunday, and we are now in the process of training architects, builders, the people who will supply insulation, energy efficient windows, so that we can create the capacity to implement this code. Finally, as far as designated consumers is concerned, 9 sectors have been notified. There are more which will be notified in the future, and the energy use monitoring and reporting process is now in the process of being established. So all in all, we see that there are great potentials for energy conservation. We notice that we can make changes in things we do today, like changing a light bulb. That we can do changes in the way we make decisions for future energy use, for example, when you are buying a refrigerator or air conditioner. And we can make changes in the way we do infrastructure, for example, buildings or industry. And in all of these, we are now in the process of moving ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mathur, for such interesting discussions on the energy conservation, and you gave a really nice introduction towards this particular sector. Now I would like to request Mr. K.K. Chakravarti to discuss about the energy audit. So please come to the presentation. Respond to this clarification. Yeah, you can. आपका वाला presentation.
Good morning, friends. It's a really great opportunity for all of us to interact with you, as the distribution system is considered to be the weak link, and sharing knowledge on improving the performance of the distribution system is very, very vital for all of us, particularly for us in the Bureau, because we believe more we share the knowledge, more we stand to gain. Before I proceed to the scheduled presentation on energy audit of a power distribution system, I would like to reply to the queries raised by one of the candidate, Mr. Saurabh Mistry, which was relating to Energy Conservation Act notifications and other associated issues. His query relates to mainly designated consumers. I think all of you may be aware that in the power system, power generating utilities, thermal power station, hydropower station, transmission companies, distribution companies, they have been covered as designated consumers under the Energy Conservation Act. The schedule to the Energy Conservation Act list 15 such energy intensive industries and other establishments, and recently there have been certain notification on which I think you have raised these queries, and certain other clarification. Let me first take up your query on the recent notification of designated consumer, in which 9 designated consumers have been picked up by the central government. It has been said in your email that central government has altered the list. Yes, central government has the power to alter the list under the Energy Conservation Act, and it can do so. But it was done in a judicious ways, so as to meet the demand and supply. Because once the designated consumers are notified, they have to fulfill certain mandatory provisions. They have to appoint or designate energy manager. They have to get the energy audit done through an accredited energy auditor, for which we need sufficient capacity of such trained professionals in the country. No doubt Bureau has undertaken 4 such examinations through which energy managers and energy auditors have been certified. But for accreditation, there are certain other prerequisites which a certified energy auditor has to fulfill. So keeping the demand and supply position, as well as the direction which has been given in the Energy Conservation Act, central government has picked up 9 energy intensive industries which together account for 60% of the energy consumed in the industrial sector. That was the reason precisely why 9 industries have been picked up to begin with. But I can inform you that is for the time being, it's a matter of time only. Maybe another 6 to 9 months time, we may have all the 15 designated consumers getting notified. So I think this replies to your query that initially government has picked up 9 industry, but sooner they'll be picking up the remaining 6, and few more industries will also be picked up maybe at a later date. Second query relates to when the mandatory provision of energy appointment or designation of certified energy manager by the designated consumer will be effective. Bureau has already prepared the drafts, and they are under the consideration of Ministry of Power, and very soon they are going to be sent to Law Department for vetting, and we hope within 3 months time the next notification on appointment or designation of energy manager by designated consumer may take place, because they have to go in one by one. First we have to notify the consumers, then we have to notify the qualification of energy manager, which has already been done. So now the third term comes, that appointment or designation of energy managers. The other query relates to whether the appointment of a designated certified energy manager has to be on contractual basis or regular basis. If you look at the schedule, the industry which have been covered, they all are energy intensive industries. So a contractual person cannot fulfill the mandatory requirement. He has to be a person on regular appointment. That's the reason that we believe, although Act can be interpreted in many ways, but this clarification will be coming in the regulations. So he has to be a person who has to be on the regular role of designated consumer. He can be picked up as a staff of the designated consumer, but he has to pass the certification examination, or he can be appointed from the regular cadre of certified energy manager. Another query is on whether a person who has been certified as energy manager but not appointed by the industry as certified energy manager under law, so whether that person will be eligible for renewal of certificate. Yes, he will be eligible, subject to the condition that he has attended a training program from a accredited institute once in every 5 years. Other query, the last query relates to upgradation of EM certificate to EA. I think some of you who have written this examination might be knowing that this examination started in the year 2004, but for which the conditions were different, but in the examination 2005 onwards the condition were changed. In the 2004, energy manager and energy auditor were supposed to write different papers. The papers were different, their difficulty levels were different. Difficulty levels for EM candidates were lower than that of EA, and whereas for 2005 onwards, this difficulty level was same for EM and EA candidates. So that's the reason for 2005 examination onwards, EM candidate has been allowed to upgrade his certificate, provided he or she fulfills the eligibility criteria. He can write the fourth paper and YOC, but now YOC has been abolished. So only the question of writing the fourth paper. But your query is why it has not been made applicable for 2004 examination. That's the reason why, because the difficulty level was lower than that of EA. But now we are of the opinion that this opportunity needs to be given to EM candidates of 2004 examination. We will have discussion, internal discussion in Bureau, and we'll like to solve this problem, because if there is interest among the candidates, why we should not support them. So thanks a lot for the queries which you have raised. Now let me go on the scheduled presentation.
Do you have any question? Yes.
Sir, diploma holder are eligible for this EM and E.
Yes, diploma holders are eligible for energy manager certification, but for energy auditor certification, a minimum graduate degree is required or equivalent, but not for EM. Even postgraduate in science is also eligible, because there are certain industries where you may not find even a single engineer. For example, sugar industry, you will find, although engineers may be there, but you will find mainly sugar technologists or the chemists who are basically postgraduate in science. So keeping that in view, we have kept that option open, and postgraduate in science, diploma engineers with certain experience level can write EM examination, but for energy auditor examination, a person has to have graduate level degree.
From where I contact to this
Means
EM.
you want to ask that where you should contact to get this
Yes.
examination, to undergo this examination for EM, energy manager.
We have two websites. One is b-india.nic.in. Second is energymanagertraining.com. These websites give the details of such examinations. If you log on to this website, there is a special section on exam updates.
Mr. Chakravarti, for the benefit of our learners, if you can spell out these websites slowly so they can note down.
Okay. First website is bee-india.nic.in.
BEE-India.nic.in.
Second is energymanagertraining.com. Both the websites are quite popular, particularly the energymanagertraining.com. It has registered more than 14 lakh hits within a span of 4 years. It's one of the websites which is frequently visited by all energy professionals in the country, as well as whosoever wants information on energy management, auditing and conservation aspects. What's happening in the country, what's happening all over the world. This website gives the detailed information.
So on both the websites, the information regarding the various level of testing and certification is available.
Yes.
So our learners can go to these websites and can see the different information, various information related to this various level of testing and certification. I think Dr. Mathur wants to add something. Okay, so we can continue the discussion.
Why writing this examination may be useful because distribution system are covered, and there's a very little experience or the very few energy auditors available in such stream, and we believe that whosoever gets into this area will have a bright future, because in future there may be demand for such professionals who provide professional energy auditing in this area. Okay, let me come to the energy auditing aspects. Let me confess that, as I said, there will be very few professionals available in this stream who can do real audit in power distribution system, since there was not much exposure available. So we have very few consultants in the field who can provide such services or such systems to the distribution system. Let me first define what does energy management means, because the overall umbrella is the energy management, and energy audit is a tool to achieve that objective. There are two definitions which can define energy management. The first definition is the judicious and effective use of energy to maximize profits. So we are going to effectively use the energy to maximize our profit. That's a business-like definition, because ultimately a businessman is interested in achieving more profits or minimizing its cost and enhance competitive position. Once costs are reduced, naturally it will enhance the competitive position. So in a state where there are 4 or 5 distribution companies, so whosoever has less transmission and distribution losses or less AT&C losses, that company will be generating more profits and will be in a position to compete with others in the time to come. The second definition is the strategy of adjusting and optimizing energy. Kindly read these words very carefully. The strategy of adjusting and optimizing energy using systems and procedures. We all technical people are very good in talking of technical possibilities of achieving energy efficiency, but when the system and procedure comes, we are very weak. Let me confess it. But I believe our engineers are one of the best engineers in the world, technically wise. But where do we lack? The knowledge on the systems and procedures. That needs to be updated, that needs to be toned up. So not only the technical criteria, but also the system and procedure, we have to be very well versed what type of systems and procedures we can adopt to optimize the use of energy. That's the thing I think which we have to look for. So using system and procedures so as to reduce energy requirements per unit of output. Per unit of output means is a index. Basically we need some benchmark to compare our performance with respect to others in the country as well as outside this country. So this is index. We need certain technical performance indicators. So per unit of output is an index which can be compared. If we want to compare our energy performance of the country with respect to others, then we say energy intensity, that is energy consumed per unit of GDP generated. It could be on power purchasing parity also, it could be without that also. So this is one index which is normally used when we compare energy performance of a country with respect to other countries in the world. When we come to distribution companies, then we compare how much our AT&C are there with respect to other distribution agencies. Like that, industry compares how much energy is consumed per unit of product output. So it's an index. While holding constant or reducing total cost of producing the output from these systems, we have to maintain the productivity level, we have to production levels, or we have to maintain the cost level or reduce the cost level So effectively, effectively the strategy of adjusting and optimizing energy using system and procedures so as to reduce energy requirements per unit of output. That's basically the definition of energy management. Now let me come to objectives of the energy management. To achieve and maintain optimum energy procurement and utilization throughout the organization. This is one of the objectives. Second objective is to minimize energy cost and waste without affecting production and quality. This is the second objective. And third is to minimize environmental effects. I hope you know that when we in this production center, when we are using 1 unit of energy, the thermal power station is emitting about 1 kg of carbon dioxide roughly. So 1 unit of energy consumed here, 1 kg of carbon dioxide produced there, and carbon dioxide gas is a greenhouse gas, and we know that greenhouse gases are responsible for global warming. All of us are looking into this, all of us are serious about this and worried about the global warming and the impact which is going to create. So whenever a use of energy is there, you can take it that there will be environmental degradation. So how we can minimize that? So efficiency.
Yeah. Please, Bangalore, speak.
Sir, I would like that some elaboration of energy intensity and power purchase parity.
Energy intensity is, as Mr. Chakravarti said, an index. In the common use of the term, it is normally used when you have the energy used in the numerator divided by the economic output in the denominator. We have something as called specific energy consumption, which is energy in the numerator, and physical output, tons of steel or tons of cement in the numerator. But energy intensity is energy used divided by economic output. So for a country, what I will do is I will take the total energy use and divide it by the GDP of the country. So I will get something which is in the units of energy, say kilograms of oil equivalent. So I convert all the energy into oil equivalent to get a total number, divided by rupees of GDP. Now the second problem that comes is, supposing I have a number for India. It is kilograms of oil equivalent divided by rupees of GDP. But then I want to compare it with the energy intensity of, say, Germany. That will be in kilograms of oil divided by euros of GDP. How do I convert? One of the things I can do is I can say 1 rupee is equal to about 50. Sorry, 1 euro is equal to about 50 rupees, and use that conversion. The problem with energy efficiency is, whenever you do an energy efficiency project, you need people, consultants and construction workers, you need civil works, and you need technology. You need all of them. But when you say 1 euro is equal to 50 rupees, that conversion only reflects the value of traded goods between these two economies. Now people, whether they are workers or consultants, are not traded. Civil works are not traded. What is traded certainly is some kinds of technology. So it gives a very wrong impression if you use the market rate of currency conversion to convert energy intensity between one country and the other. So then the issue is, what is the option? The option is something called purchasing power parity terms. And the concept behind this is very simple. We take a basket of goods and services in every country. So many tons of steel, haircut is included in it. How much does it cost? It is included if I want to make a wall of this size, how much it is costed. So this baskets of goods and services, we calculate how much it will cost in different countries. And for example, while if I look at the market rate of conversion, $1 will get us about 40 rupees. But when I look at the basket of goods comparison, the purchasing power parity comparison, then I find that $1 only is equal to about 10 rupees. The World Bank produces every year both the GDP in market terms as well as in purchasing power parity terms. So we can pick up that from the World Bank tables. And then if you divide the energy used in a country divided by the GDP, which is at purchasing power parity terms, you get the energy intensity in purchasing power parity terms. For the sake of completion, the purchasing power parity, the energy intensity of India today is about 0.18 kilograms of oil equivalent, about 180 grams of oil equivalent for every dollar of GDP measured in purchasing power parity terms. This is almost exactly the same as the energy intensity of Germany. It is better than the energy intensity of the US, but is worse than the energy intensity of Japan. Japan is about 15% better than India.
Thank you, Dr. Mathur. I think the learner must have got his answer. Mr. Chakravarti can continue the discussions.
Okay. The definition of energy audit, it has been defined in the Energy Conservation Act. Let me first give you a brief why the term energy audit came. In past, we were doing fuel efficiency studies or energy conservation studies, but we were not considering the total system approach. For example, if we want to do energy conservation study of transformers, there are two transformers in a distribution system, and we pick up one transformer and conduct the energy conservation study of that transformer, and we will recommend certain measures to how to save energy in that particular transformer, and that study ends there. But we will not take into account whenever that recommendation is implemented on that particular transformer, what impact it is going to have on the second transformer or down the line. So it has happened in past, consultants have proposed, recommended that you switch off this transformer and shift the load from this transformer to other transformer which can take up that load. So it did resulted in saving of energy in that particular transformer, but exactly what happened when the load was shifted to other transformer, the total loss of the system increased or went up. So that was the result of such energy conservation study. These energy conservation study did not look into the holistic approach, and one particular component of the system was picked up, recommendations were suggested and implemented without realizing what impact it is going to have on the whole system as such. So therefore the word energy audit came. Maybe some people said that the energy professional, they want to compete themselves with financial auditing because they were not respected in the industry or the system whenever they went there. So they wanted this fancy audit word because once you say I'm an auditor, down the line people will pay you respect. Maybe initially it did work, it did help the consultants to get access to such facilities, but on the whole run, if you take the time when it was introduced and the time where we are today, energy auditing has really helped. Plenty of energy saving measures have been implemented because of a systematic approach, and industry has been benefited to a greater extent. But unfortunately, the power sector remained unaffected because no attention was paid in this sector. The power producers, the power transmission and distribution segment remain untouched because none of us were really interested in getting into such type of facilities. But now, after the enactment of the Energy Conservation Act, this has become mandatory for distribution system or transmission companies to get the energy audit done, and the energy audit will follow the definition or the concept which is listed in the Energy Conservation Act. You can have a look at the section 2 of Energy Conservation Act, which defines the verification, monitoring and analysis of use of energy. Verification, that is what energy is consumed and monitored, and analysis. These are the three words. If you really look into depth, you will follow what exactly the energy audit means. So the verification, monitoring and analysis of use of energy, including submission of technical report. So technical report submission has been made a part of the definition of energy audit, which would contain recommendations for improving energy efficiency with cost benefit analysis. So this report should highlight the recommendation for improving energy efficiency with cost benefit analysis and an action plan to reduce energy consumption. So right from scratch to the complete implementation stage, the energy audit term, what has been defined, this term has gone through many restructuring, because the time when the bill was being debated, many suggestions came, and this definition, which has actually appeared in the Energy Conservation Act, took into all the responses, all the opinion which were expressed to make it more comprehensive. So this definition will now govern all the rules and regulation relating to the conduct of energy audit under the Energy Conservation Act. Why energy audit is needed? I hope you would agree with me that there are three operating expenses, which are basically energy, labor and materials. And energy, among all these three components, would emerge as the top ranker for cost reduction. Industry is paying a lot of attention on this. All the energy intensive industry which have been specified as designated consumers have energy costs ranging anywhere between 30 to 60% in the total cost of production. And conduct of energy audit is therefore essential to determine ways to reduce energy consumption or losses per unit of product output of energy sold, or to lower operating cost. So the energy audit is also needed to establish benchmark, that is a reference point for managing energy in the organizational system. This is the final output which we will be looking for, because we have to come out with this benchmark. Until unless we don't know where do we stand, we cannot compare ourselves with others. So this benchmark has to be there, and this benchmark ultimately now will be also helping in complying with the other mandatory provisions of the EC Act, where distribution companies have to meet the standards and norms. Coming specifically to power utilities, so in power utility, energy audit means identifying energy losses and quantify them. Basically, in a layman language, if you talk of energy audit, it is energy input output analysis. When we take into account the energy input and we take out the energy output, what balance is left is the losses. So these losses are basically to be attacked, or the wastages are to be attacked, and this audit will help us in identifying such losses and the areas or the energy conservation measures to be to effectively implement and reduce such losses. Energy accounting and energy auditing, we will be discussing energy accounting. Energy accounting is basically a tool which would assist us in the conduct of energy auditing, and accounting gives us an overall picture of energy availability and its use, whereas energy audit will help us in analyzing the data in a systematic and meaningful manner to evolve appropriate measures to introduce check and balances in the system for reducing leakages and losses and achieve technical performance. What are the aims of energy audit? In fact, when you write the report, when say you become a professional energy auditor, these aims can become a part of your report writing. We will discuss at a later stage what should be the report contents, but kindly keep in mind that these aims can become subsequent chapters when you are writing the report. So the broad aims could be review and upgrading of procedure for energy accounting. Whatever the present existing procedures are there for energy accounting, whether they are successful, whether they need upgradation, whether they need updation. So this energy audit would help us in that objective. Review of technical efficiency of system elements in sub-transmission and distribution systems. Audit would help us in assessing the energy performance of conductors, distribution transformers and other associated electrical systems. This could be another chapter where we can list what is the present operating efficiency of such systems. The third one, analysis of the techniques for measuring the energy received, energy billed and the corresponding revenue collection. I think here we are moving into the commercial losses. This is again, there could be a chapter when energy audit report is written. Review of performance of equipment, meters, distribution transformers, etc. In fact, this is part of what I said earlier, technical efficiency. Segregation of technical and non-technical losses. I think each utility or each distribution utility system would be interested in finding out how much is the technical loss and how much is the non-technical loss. Until unless we segregate them, we cannot take the appropriate measures. Establishment of norms for checking the consumption of various categories of consumers and overall energy balance in the cities. This will really help us in designing our DSM programs and other areas. Energy audit for a distribution utility. This would ensure that input units into an area are recorded, ensures that the corresponding output units are recorded, that is input and output, what I earlier said. Basically energy audit means, in real sense, if you say energy audit, saying is very easy, but it's very difficult. I don't think any professional body in the country or outside the world is doing real energy audit. It's extremely difficult. We call ourselves energy auditors, but in real sense, none of us is really energy auditor. I mean, you can challenge me, but this is what I am saying. It's because proper monitoring is not there, proper instruments are not there. We do not have proper recording facilities. So, some point of time, at some stages, some assessment do come in. So, in a real sense, it's not a complete energy audit. But in technical terms, we always have scope for estimation. So, we can say yes, it's energy audit. But in actual sense, I beg to differ that none of us is really doing energy audit. Then we identify the area of deficiency, and accordingly we work out what could be the measures implemented and the correction to be applied. And real energy audit, as I said, it helps us in accurate calculation of system loss, both technical and commercial. Benefits of energy audit, I think now we must have understood that it would help us in managing the load, which is I think a big headache for all of us. Some of the distribution companies, they may be comfortable as far as average energy, meeting the energy requirement is concerned, but may face problem when the peaking power comes. Or peaking power shortage is anywhere between 11 to 13%, and it happens in the morning peak and evening peak. This is somewhat in contrast to Japanese peak, which do occur at after afternoon, around 2 or 3 o'clock. But over.
Yes. Yes, Ganganagar, please speak. Please speak, Ganganagar.
That when will it become mandatory for the industries to get their energy audited, and it will be compulsory for them to appoint the energy managers, because there are many certified energy managers and auditors available now.
Okay. As I said, the notification of the various provisions of Act for designated consumer has to be done in a phased manner. The first is to be consumers are to be notified. Now this has been done. The second is to be qualification of energy manager to be appointed or designated. That has been done. The third notification in queue is the appointment or designation of energy manager. As I said in the beginning, this is under vetting and may take another 3 months time. The fourth one is qualification of accredited energy auditor. It's a regulation. This has already been sent to ministry, and that is also under vetting process. It was uploaded on our website. The comments have been received. Now a technical committee is going to look into such comments and modify suitably wherever it is feasible, and then we will be sending these comments to ministry and law ministry. Now this is the next notification which has to take place, qualification of accredited energy auditor. Then another rule and regulation regarding manner and interval of time. This is another regulation and rule. That is, what would be the manner in which the energy audit is to be conducted. It would spell out the manner and the period, whether it should be once in a year, whether it should be once in 3 years time, or that has to be specified in the rule and regulation. So that's what we have proposed. The first audit is to be conducted by the accredited energy auditor. Please note that certified energy auditor under the law is not authorized to conduct mandatory energy audit. It is the accredited energy auditor who has been mandated to provide such services to the designated consumer. Certification is one of the prerequisite. Why now many candidates are asking why you have certified the energy auditors when they are not going to conduct the energy audit? Because if you remember, if you recall, there were 6 or 7 states which went in for notification of energy audits, and Bureau took into account the feedback and the results after once these audits were there, and we found that these audits were just ritual. They created only Inspector Raj. No useful output came from such audits, and there was no use of making such exercise mandatory. So we did not want it to go in for repeat of the situation what happened in past. We wanted that a staff or a person who wants to conduct the energy audit, he should be technically qualified. There is a difference in the word certification and accreditation. Certification means a person possesses the certain technical capabilities, whereas the accreditation means the body which is going to provide the accreditation will ensure the consumer that such a person would provide the quality service. So that's why the term accreditation has come, and for accreditation, certification is one of the prerequisite, and then this certified energy auditor should have certain experience, should have instruments, so he or she should have institutional capabilities, energy auditing capabilities. Then a committee would recommend his name or her name for the accreditation. So this qualification of accredited energy auditor provides such details. Now this is another regulation which is in queue. Once it is done and manner and conduct of energy audit is done, then the government would make it mandatory. So if the government makes it mandatory just now without all this linkage in place, this would create chaos. So that's the reason why one by one all these rules and regulations are going to be taken up. I hope you are satisfied. In case not, yeah, please let us know. Now, coming to the benefits of energy audit, it would help us in load management. It will also tell us what is the power factor of the system, what is the active and reactive power flows, and suitable location for reactive power injection in the system. and assessment of diversity in the system, optimum utilization of equipment and services, improved voltage profile, details of category-wise consumption of loads and proper forecast of demand, and better system upgradation and expansion planning. I think you will agree with me when we talk of technical losses, basically it's a matter of current and resistance. These are the two terms. Anything which adds up to the current would result in more technical losses. Anything which add up to resistance would create more technical losses. So whenever you want to audit any system, please look into these two aspects, which can bring down the current and which can bring down the resistance. There can be many ways and means, but the main two guiding factors are how to reduce the current and how to reduce the voltage, reduce the resistance. These are the two guiding factors for successful implementation of any energy auditing exercise or its recommendation as far as technical losses are concerned. There are three types of energy audit. Your book has said 4 types of energy audit, but basically a professional energy auditor conducts 2 types of energy audit. The first one, preliminary energy audit, and second one, detailed energy audit. But your book has mentioned 4 types of energy audit: preliminary energy audit, utility cost analysis, standard energy audit, and detailed energy audit. I would say for you, I think the first and the last one is applicable. The type of energy audit to be selected depends on the function and type of facilities, depth to which final audit is needed, and potential and magnitude of cost reduction desired. These are the basic areas or on the basis of which audit is to be selected. Preliminary energy audit, basically it covers 70% of the energy utilized. It's a basic, is a walkthrough type of audit where housekeeping measures are identified, the low cost measures are identified, no detailed investigations are done. Based on the auditor experience, the measures are proposed. When a preliminary energy audit, on the basis of preliminary energy audit, something is to be concluded, then in my personal opinion, the auditor has to have good experience, otherwise he can recommend wrong recommendations. So when any action is to be taken on the basis of preliminary energy audit, please be sure that auditor who has conducted this energy audit should be well versed with such systems and should have in-depth experience. Otherwise, you can anticipate a lot of wrong recommendations being proposed to the management. Utility cost analysis, basically this is applicable to the building facilities, although your book has mentioned this as one of the audit, but may not be feasible for as far as distribution system is concerned. So basically what auditors do, just in 2 or 3 days time, they take the tariffs, they look into the bills, then they identify how they can save money. I'm saying money because there is a possibility of demand reduction, there is a possibility of power factor improvement, there is a possibility of incorporating load management and power factor capacitors. So just for 2 or 3 days audit, the auditor should be in a position to give you, after studying the utility bills, such type of recommendations. Standard energy audit, basically in this the benchmark is going to be created, and it includes a preliminary energy audit and utility cost analysis audit. But as I said earlier, this may not be applicable for distribution system. For distribution system, we have to have a preliminary audit and then detailed audit. So detailed audit evaluates all energy using system, equipment, and include detailed energy saving and cost. It's a complete audit. It covers 100% of energy use in a particular facility or system. This is carried out in 3 phases: pre-audit phase, audit phase, and post-audit phase. Pre-audit phase, in the step, there are 10 steps in the total detail audit. In the first step, what we are trying to do is we are planning. We are in the planning stage. We are organizing ourselves. We are having informal interview with building managers or the system managers. Second, we are having brief meeting with all the in charge, all the heads, so as to build up cooperation. Because it has happened when an auditor goes to audit a facility, doubts are created for what purpose this particular person has come to conduct audit. There were certain instances where such auditors were abused because down the line or the in charge heads were not conveyed by the top management or not communicated by the top management that such and such audit is going to take place. So not much cooperation was extended to such auditors. So these type of meetings are required to inform such departmental heads why it is essential or why it is required and what is the objective of such type of audits which are being carried out. So this is very, very essential. In the audit phase, basically the data is gathered. Data could be historic, data could be verified through measurement, data can be generated through measurement, instrumented measurements, and it's a data collection phase basically. Then we start the in the fourth step we start the we start survey and monitoring. Data is generated, data is analyzed, and then data is monitored to prove its authenticity. Sometimes trials are to be carried out for selected energy guzzlers, and these trials help us in assessing the various parameters. And the final is after when the data process is over, data collection process is over through historic as well as data generation phase, then that data is to be analyzed. And after analysis, we have to identify the energy conservation measures or the opportunities. Basically, if you summarize it in a brief way, what I would like to recommend is that whenever any system is being studied, first we should say what is the background of that system. Second, your observation. In the background, the design details of the system should come. And your observation, once you as an auditor you look at that system, what are your observations? You will be in a position to say the present performance of that system with respect to its design conditions, or with your experience, you will be in a position to say what are your observations. Then analysis part. In the analysis, these two, background and observation, are helping you out in the technical analysis aspect. Then comes the financial aspects, where you are working on return on investment of the proposed measure or IRR. The financial, this is part, the cost benefit analysis is a part which is missed out very badly by all the auditors. They stop at giving recommendation up to the payback period, the simple one, but that's not the complete solution. Many of the energy audit reports submitted by the auditors were rejected by the accreditation committee because they were not supported with the complete financial background. So please ensure that you incorporate all those financial analysis aspects once you carry out any energy audit. Then the last one is what is your recommendation, and we can tabulate all these recommendations and give them the priority in which way we should go ahead in prioritizing them. Post-audit phase is basically what has been done, whether it has been implemented or not. If it has been implemented, what results have been achieved, what problems have been encountered, and how we can resolve such issues. Now let me get into the terms which are applicable to your distribution system. There are basically two losses in any distribution system. One is technical and second is commercial losses. Technical losses are due to energy dissipation in the conductors and the equipment used for transmission and distribution of power. Basically, depending upon the resistance they offer, the current through which it is flowing. As I said earlier, these are the two parameters because of which technical losses occur. And there could be some other areas also through which such technical losses do occur. And the commercial losses are caused due to pilferage of energy, defective meters, meter reading errors, and energy not accounted for. If you look into these two major losses, if you look at technical losses, when we talk of distribution feeders, basically we are talking of 11 kV feeder. There are line losses, there are distribution transformer losses, there are LT line losses after that from the distribution transformer when the LT lines are taken out. Then losses due to loose jump connections, then short circuit and earth fault losses, that is the naked wire may be getting earth through trees and other things through where the current is leaking. Losses in service mains and energy meters. These are basically technical losses. And commercial losses are theft by direct tapping. Many of us might have noticed such things in day-to-day experience. Theft by tempering meters, CTs and PTs, which change the ratio. Non-performing meters, underperformance meters, meters not read properly, and mathematical mistakes in the billing. Now, some guidelines how to conduct, how to determine the technical losses. This is very well covered in your course books, but for the repetition purpose, we can discuss. I can suggest one simple method that is also feasible. And normally auditors, when they conduct audit in a industry, they follow that type of method. The method which has been used is a pure, procedurally it is very, very correct. So let's look into this first, and then the alternate method which can also be used, I would like to inform you. First is we have to assess the load factor. When we are trying to find out what is the load factor of a transformer, then it is given by energy input to the transformer, by peak load of the transformer during the month. A transformer will not be always loaded at the maximum load. The load will keep on fluctuating from every minutes to every hour. So there will be a certain time when the peak will be recorded, and we have to record the highest of the peak when it has been recorded. And number of hours the transformer is in service during the month. This basically is the load factor. Now, how to know what is the energy input to the transformer? This can be measured on the primary side if a meter is there. If meter is not there, when transformers are running in parallel operation. Kindly note that this concept is not very clear in your book, but if you are going to follow this thing, then you have to, these transformers have to be in parallel operation, then you can use this method. Energy input to the transformer is equal to energy sent out on the 11 kV feeder from substation minus the energy losses in the 11 kV feeder. This is total energy which has been received at the distribution transformers. There may be many number of transformers, distribution transformer connected to the same bus. Now that capacity of that transformer to the total transformer capacity in the feeder. This formula or this equation can only be used once all the distribution transformers are in parallel operation. Now, second factor which has to be worked out, the loss load factor, that is LLF, which is a Stephen's constant, also is called, is 0.3 LF plus 0.7 LF square. This is a factor which has to be used while correcting the copper losses. No load losses, these losses will be written on the transformer nameplate. They are proportional to the supply voltage. If the voltage changes, this also gets changed. If the frequency changes, they also get changed. But for all practical purpose, we presume this as constant. Long back when Eastern Grid was running at 50.5 Hertz frequency, then whatever nameplate rating is there, that would not remain constant, that would change, that would get changed. Or The same is vice versa is true when the frequency is maintained at 49.5 Hertz. It happens in there are certain pockets where you will have a frequency certain times when the frequency is low because the demand on the grid is very high. But for all practical purpose, we take the node load losses as mentioned in the nameplate of the transformer. And the load losses, that is the copper losses, which change with respect to the loading. The losses which are mentioned, they are full load losses, which will never remain constant. They will keep on changing with respect to the loading. So when you are going to conduct audit on a transformer, measure the kVA or current, that is the actual load at that time, and what is the full load. Here is a confusion in your book. I think full load should be taken here as a peak load. Then square of this into the copper loss, that's full load copper loss, and number of hours the transformer capacity was in service, and this is to be multiplied by low loss factor. Now what I said earlier, that many of the professional energy auditors, they don't go by this formulas. What they use is very easy for you. Please measure what is the kVAH recorded. If you have a meter there, trivector meter there, you have kilowatt hour recorded, you have kVAH recorded. So measure the kVAH recorded for a day. That gets you the average kVA. If you divide it by hours, you get the actual kVA. Now that kVA divided by the rated capacity of the transformer, this ratio, square of this multiplied by full load copper loss. It's very simple, and they use this type of method. I mean, all professional auditors who do energy audit in the industry, they use this type of, that is average kVA load divided by the full capacity, the nameplate capacity of the transformer, square of this multiplied by the full load copper loss. That's the method, that's the equation which they use while working out the copper losses. So you can see that this ratio is in square. So this load at 10%, this if the transformer load is at 10%, 40%, 60%, 100%, the copper loss will not vary in a linear proportion. This will vary in a different way. So that's why whenever any one of us is doing audit on such system and suggesting some recommendation that switch of the transformer or shift load from one transformer to other transformer, please be careful and look into this aspect. Before we take a break, one more explanation I would like to give how to determine technical losses on the 11 kV feeder. Basically, in your book it has been assessed. I mean, the method which has been proposed is some sort of assessment. But I would recommend that you, to the best possible, it should be avoided. Because what method says that we work out the losses of LT network of each capacity transformer, and then we average out for each LT network. And then we compute the average losses of LT network radiating from each capacity transformer and extrapolating it. Basically some sort of assessment. To the best possible, we should try to assess technically. If we know the conductor's size, we know what is the resistance. We, through kV, as I said, we know to what extent the load is there. We should try to work out technically or use the softwares whatever are available. To be this type of assessment to be best avoided wherever it is possible. So with this we would take a break and resume it after the break. Thank you.
Yeah, this is the time for a short break for 15 minutes. We will meet at 10:45. These discussions will continue in our next session also. Thank you.